good to go. Good evening. You've started the recording, Mitch. Fantastic. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this, the 10th meeting of the 55th Guild Council. And as always, I would like to begin with an acknowledgement of country, acknowledgement of the traditional owners. The Curtin Guild would like to pay our respect to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander members of our community by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land for which the Bentley campus is located, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, and on our Kalgoorlie campus, the Wongatha people of the North Eastern Goldfields. We acknowledge and respect their continuing culture and the contribution they make to the life of this university, city and region. For accounting attendance, I'd like to formally welcome Shira to the Guild Council, filling a vacancy owing to the resignation of Texa. Welcome, everyone. Sure. Magic. We'll move to attendance. I'll quickly grab that attendance sheet, Marianne. Thank you. Members present, we have Jasmine, Veronica, Jackie, Shira, Dylan, oh my gosh, Tani, Mitch, myself. Online we have Max and Ben. Others present, we have David and Marianne, and a viewer, Juliet. Perfect, Julie. And then apologies and leave of absence. We have no apologies, no leave of absence. Okay, we have an apology from Ray, and then everybody else is absent for the time being, but we have been notified that people will be joining a little later on. We'll move to item 3. Item 3 is the disclosure of any potential or perceived conflicts of interest. Was there anything to declare from members present in relation to the agenda? If not, we can move on to item 4. Item 4 is the minutes of the previous meeting and circular resolution. Item 4.1 is the previous meeting minutes. The motion is that the Guild Council approves the minutes of the previous meeting held on the 26th of September as a true and accurate record of proceedings at the meeting. That's moved by Mitch. Can I get a seconder? Dylan Storer. Were there any issues relating to those minutes? If not, we'll move to a vote. All those in favour? All those against? That motion is carried. Item 4.2 is the circular resolution. It's the circular resolution 4. It was moved by Jasmine and seconded by Mitch. The motion was that the Guild Council, upon the recommendations of the Executive Committee, appoints Vernon Thompson as Managing Director of the Guild of Curtin University, effective from the 2nd of December 2024. B, approves the proposed terms and conditions of employment and position description of the Managing Director as at attachment C. C, approves the Managing Director's transition plan as outlined in the body of the motion. D, notes that as part of the finalisation of the Managing Director contract, the Guild will require certain forms and checks be completed as outlined in the body of the motion. E, authorises the use of the common seal as required for sealing documents due to this resolution. That motion was carried by absolute majority, so we can move straight to item 5. Item 5 is, of course, reports. Start with you, Jasmine. Your report was submitted. Did you have anything to add?
Yeah, so I circulated it this afternoon. Including in it is a bit of an update to the bill that reflects the recommendations that were accepted from the Accords. Main kind of highlight, because it's on the 10th of October, it went to its 3rd reading. So it's basically like at its final stages. A lot of amendments have come to its end. And kind of the main highlights there is the with the NUS, we pushed for universities to be the one to implement the paid pracs payment. So basically the way that it will work is the government will give every university who has eligible students from teaching, midwifery, nursing and social work, provide them a grant to be able to pay them the paid prac payment. So it will be up to the universities to distribute that payment to its students who are eligible. And basically the reason why we thought that would be more appropriate than coming direct from government is that it allows kind of a more kind of nuanced approach in the way that it's applied and the way that it is kind of means tested and the way the means testing is. We're still waiting for further kind of details of how it will work, but that's kind of how it is so far in the bill. And then when it comes to SAF payments, they altered the kind of definition of what a student-led organisation is, and it is in the, if you check out the explanatory memorandum. Oh, sorry. They went in extensive detail about how WA won't be affected by the legislation in terms of SAF, and it explicitly said that WA's 50% minimum of receiving SAF must continue, and that the changes to the higher education legislation shouldn't affect that payment of SAF. The only space where there's kind of a grey area is the reporting requirements for student-led organisations and the spending of their SAF, and we're kind of waiting to see greater detail within the procedure of that and whether that affects WA, because it doesn't explicitly say in the bill that it won't. But kind of in the explanatory notes it does, so we're just kind of waiting to see whether it is there. But yeah, that's kind of the update from that space. I was on leave and I included my leave notes on there. I took my annual leave. But yeah, happy to answer any questions from my report.
Just before we go to questions, I'll note that Noor and Alina have joined at 5:37 p.m. Were there any questions for Jasmine on her report? Jackie.
Sorry, it's not mentioned in this report, but following up from last report, just wondering how the period product vending machines are going and when we can expect the delivery of the products.
So the year's worth of products was meant to be delivered yesterday, and the driver ghosted me, but has left me a voicemail saying that he will call me tomorrow. He did the same thing when it came to the actual delivery of the machine, so I'm not surprised at all. And so we're clearing up the back room for them to be stored temporarily until we kind of fix the storage situation in the back of the guild and where they'll do. And we've also, in terms of when the products need to be fulfilled. What's wrong, Jackie? Oh. And in terms of when the products need to be filled frequently, there's a QR code going on the machine, so that it will just be a text to the president's phone number, that they need to be refilled, or a Google form link for the women's officer, so that we can know.
Thanks, Jasmine. I'll just note for the minutes at 5:38 p.m. we have Ella and Serena joining us online. Were there any further questions for Jasmine on her report? If not, we'll move on to item 5.2, the Vice President Education's report. Veronica, your report was submitted. Do you have anything to add?
So you get most of these read. I'll add an update about the tuition-free weeks sort of academic calendar review. So currently, thank you to the members as well who submitted to the Secretariat some submissions about that. Currently, the proposal is now sitting for a reintroduction in 2026 SEM 1. Instead of SEM 2. This is still sort of up for debate, as it will be going to November LSEC and Academic Board. Some of the hesitation and reservations and preventions from it being in SEM 2 2025 is to do with visas for international students coming in. So there's a member that's been added to the academic calendar working group who deals with that kind of side of stuff, who's going to query with the government about those visa issues and see what the flexibility is there, and maybe we'll have a bit more intel to see if a 2025 SEM 2 is actually feasible, but it's come down a bit quickly. I'll note as well, we had some problems with the Guild receiving emails from UCs wanting to do scheduling requests for their classes, sort of special requests where they wanted to have some classes during common free time, not all of them, just some, special sort of one-off things, which was quite odd because we're not in charge of recommending that, but there was a bunch of mishaps between the schedule, miscommunications with the scheduling office. So we sorted that out. Now we've realised that now they want to give us a courtesy email whenever basically a class is scheduled through common free time as a once-off, not a throughout the semester thing. And all of those further communications will now come to the Vice President Education email going forward. That's about it.
Thank you, Veronica. Were there any questions for Veronica on the contents of the report? Tani.
Yeah, I just had a question about the meeting that you had with former student accommodation students and just sort of what the concerns or main themes that came out of that meeting were.
So I had a student who a couple. A student who was talking a lot about the additional charges and fees that so one thing that happens with rent is that it's not always just the rent price of accommodation that goes up. You also have all these little fees on top of that. One of those things is activities fees. So there was a big complaint about activities fees happening in the first place, as well as going up, because apparently across all of the student accommodations, it's poorly run activities that students don't really want to attend, but they have to keep paying for them. So that was a big thing that was brought up. Another thing as well is where students were querying if there were ways to essentially reduce the energy costs in accommodation, because they noticed that there was a lot of heating and lighting being used in common areas when no one is using them. If that could bring down costs, whatnot. Like just a student who was actually ex-accommodation, but brought some suggestions up. It's normal stuff, you know, that we usually hear. Taking that on board, we're collating it. And it's stuff we've definitely presented to the university before, but we are still taking this stuff on board and we're going to use it. So it was valuable.
Thanks, Veronica. Any further questions for Veronica on her report? Yes, Ella?
I guess I just had a question about the Palestine month of action that the Guild was meant to be doing this month, because I just was pretty disappointed, to be honest, with the turnout at the rally yesterday. It was meant to be a National Student Day of Action, and I felt like the Guild did very, very little to promote it with students. I talked to a lot of students who didn't even know it was happening, who didn't receive an email about it. And I don't know, it was good that it happened and I was there. But yeah, I think it was quite small and yeah, not heavily promoted at all. And also it was an exam free week, or it was in study week. So it's no one can actually really come. So because they're all studying for exams, and also it's not really a student strike, is it? Because they're not striking from anything. So I guess I was a bit disappointed. The Guild has a lot of money, has a lot of resources. It has a lot of a big ability to actually heavily promote activism, try to mobilize students. It could have done more stalls during the month of action for Palestine. I think.
Can we get a question?
I think Students for Palestine WA did more stalls in the month of action that the Guild organised than you guys did. So I guess I was just wondering, how did you find this month of action that you guys did for Palestine, and what did the Guild do for it, to promote it? What could have you done better? Because I was a bit disappointed with the lack of advertising, promotion, also events during the month of action. I think there could have been a lot more events. And Students for Palestine WA, we had an amazing big mass student meeting with over 200 students who came, and a big protest at the front of the Vice Chancellor's office that the Guild didn't do anything to support, which was also in your month of action, but I think it was actually the most successful pro-Palestine event this whole month on campus. So yeah, I guess I was just curious to hear Veronica's thoughts about all that, really.
Veronica.
Yep, thank you. So organising the protest yesterday was sort of a thing rallied around nationally. Obviously, the NUS endorsed sort of a week of action thing. There was a lot, and also UWA very much headed that last protest. It was a very big thing of massive communications. So I do agree there definitely could have been more done and better done to do it. I think overall the protest was generally successful. Obviously it wasn't massive, but for a weekday we had Sophie McNeil attend, and she shared it heavily, who's a Greens candidate and journalist, ABC journalist, who shared it heavily on her socials, which was great, got it out. There was unfortunately an event that we really wanted to do during the month of action, was to turn the STA travel room the Guild has into basically a display set up from the organisation We Are Not Numbers, who have basically stories and art from Palestinians who have died in Palestine, and because they've were happy to loan us all that art. There's some delays with that currently, and I don't think we'll be able to do it this month of action. We're still trying to get it done for some point, maybe next semester, because I think the peak times are kind of going down for people to be able to see it. But thank you for that feedback, Ella.
Thanks, Veronica. Any further questions for Veronica on her report? If not, we'll move on. Item 5.3 is the Vice President Activities Report. Max, your report was submitted. Did you have anything to add?
Nothing to add. Happy to take any questions.
Perfect. Were there any questions for Max on the report? Tani?
Yeah, I just had a question about the Pride event and just sort of like going ahead into next year. Like, you know, as an attendee of the event, I felt it was really successful and I'd love to see it grow next year. Is there any sort of feedback that you've heard or plans or in your handover that you're planning to give about expanding that event?
Max?
The Pride event heavily depends on the vision and what the queer officer of each year wants to do, essentially. So as you know, this year we did not have a march, we did not have a parade, we had a stall day, and that is due to the visions of this year's queer officer Xavier. And next year it will very heavily depend on what Morgan, the incoming queer officer, would like to do. Obviously, I would love to see the event, grow and continue to happen every year and attract more students. The general feedback that I have had was very positive, both amongst attendees and stall holders. But yeah, the direction that the event will go in will heavily depend on what next year's officers would like to see done.
Thank you, Max. Jackie?
Sorry, if I could just respond to that as well, because I was speaking with Xavier as their line manager, as the queer officer, and they chose to make this year's event more low sensory because they got feedback from last year's Pride, which was an amazing job. There was the big march, but they got feedback from their collective that it wasn't necessarily accessible for a lot of students, and also was a little bit stimulating and overwhelming. So this year's Pride was kind of like in response to that, but then obviously it is a back and forward, and it is very much at the discretion of the queer officer about what direction they want to go to. But they did consult the collective, and that was kind of the general consensus. I just wanted to provide that little bit of extra detail.
Thanks, Jackie. Before we move on to any further questions for Max, for the minutes, Callum Baxter Yeehaw has just entered the chamber at 5:48 p.m. Any further questions for Max on the report for the Vice President activities? If not, we will move on. Item 5.4 is the Vice President Sustainability and Welfare. Jackie, your report was submitted. Did you have anything to add?
Just an update on the recycling hub. Since we've submitted the report, the men's shed's actually come back to us and we've accepted their quote. So they're actually building the hub now, and it should be delivered by the end of November. And we're currently seeing if Curtin will pay for the TerraCycle boxes. So once we have an answer on that, the recycling hub will pretty much be up, ready to go by 30th November in the library. But other than that, I'm happy to take my report as tabled and answer any questions.
Fantastic. Any questions for Jackie? No questions. We'll move on. Item 5.5 is the Secretary's report. Mitch, your report was submitted. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I'd just like to thank Tani and the Engineers Club for being a guinea pig for the club rules, and also the club sub accounts for the bank. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Mitch. Were there any questions for Mitch on the Secretary's report? I always find it the most exhilarating report of all the ones in the agenda to read through. If not, we'll move straight on to item 5.6, the Managing Director's report, which I find closely follows Mitch's report in second place as most exhilarating to read through. David, your report was submitted. Do you have anything to add?
I'm just concerned about my report next month being exhilarating, given it will be budget approval. That aside, just one slight update. With the refurbishments, I have met with the university properties people, just trying to get things pushed along. So as per my report, there's the new kitchenette to go in. There's rearranging and improving storage arrangements and sort of a club, an event prep area, and then the relocation of the tavern. So I've been pushing hard, and in particular, I'm seeking an update on the timing for the tavern, because there is a broader review being undertaken by the university with regard to sort of Agora Courtyard Building 104, which is currently the Central Cafe building, and around there, and the broader Guild precinct as well. So hopefully I can provide a more detailed update on expected timing for those at the next meeting. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, David. Were there any questions for David on his report? comprehensive, I think, is a word to summarise your reports, David, as always. If no questions, we'll move on to the motion. The motion is that the Guild Council approve the reports. Can I get a mover? Tani, and a seconder, Jackie. All those in favour? All those against? That motion is carried. We'll move on to item 6. Item 6 is business on notice. Item 6.1 is the safety report. The motion is that the Guild Council notes the safety report. That's moved by Jasmine and seconded by Mitch. Jasmine, as mover, did you have anything to add?
So with the contractor from SEM1 who accidentally set off the fire alarms and was putting things up high that was unsafe, what did they do and say to reassure the Guild that led to the response that we're happy to use them going forward?
David.
So essentially, the person who owns the company said what occurred was inappropriate, that they do have procedures in place. They've spoken to the staff involved, run them through the required procedures. So both Curtin reviewed the response and ourselves. We're satisfied at this point in time, but it is also recorded in the university system, so they have a safety system and all contractors are in there. So if there's any repeated incidents, whether it occurs with us or anywhere else with Curtin, that'll also get picked up as well. So at this stage, they've undertaken appropriate steps to avoid a recurrence of that.
Thank you, David. Any further questions relating to the safety report? I do note procedurally, Mitch, as seconder, you do get a chance to add. Mitch.
Yeah, I just wanted to know, has there been any response at all from the university about the cracking in building 104 on the wall? Have they responded? Are they just okay, or what's the deal?
So I guess part of the reason that timing is unclear on building 104 for the tavern going in is a number of things are end of life, things like freezers and various aspects of the building. So they are investigating the whole building more closely as to what they would need to do before the tavern would get relocated. As part of that, they're monitoring the crack as well to see what would be required there. So they know that some sort of remedial works at some point in time will probably need to be undertaken. But just from a safety perspective, I've been monitoring it over a considerable period of time. I'm a civil engineer by original training, and it had progressed slightly. So although I wasn't concerned for the building, I have reported it to the university.
Thank you, David. Now we'll move to questions on the safety report. Were there any questions relating to the contents of the safety report? Jackie?
Just the very last point of the safety report about the aircon in 106F. I've noted that you said that Curtin's attempting to resolve the issue, but do we know roughly when they're going to resolve the issue, especially with summer coming up?
So I have a 10-degree temperature variation in my office as an example. So it was a lovely sparkling 16 degrees for half a day, and then it jumped to 28 degrees after that. What has happened is it's been an ongoing issue for years. Then they come out and adjust something, or they come out and check it and say it's okay. What we've done this time is collected a lot of temperature measurements right through the whole office and through the day as well. And it just shows that there's these random fluctuations. So somebody could come in, everything looks sweet, and an hour later it can be all over the place. So this is the first time we've had hard data to demonstrate the real nature of the problem. So they are onto it. Normally with these things, within a couple of weeks, they do something. So I'm hoping with this data that they can actually understand the problem. If there's a part that needs to be replaced, a significant component of the air conditioning system, then that sort of thing can take months. So no promises from me because I can't control it.
Thank you, David. Any further questions relating to the contents of the safety report? David?
I just want to say I am disappointed that at the low rate of safety inspections being done, a staff member who basically sets those for staff to undertake in the outlets, to be undertaken in the outlets on our sort of safety system has left the guild, and there wasn't a huge amount of notice with that, so that slipped through the cracks, but that's being followed up, and I'll make sure that we have a pretty good strike rate this month. On a positive note, the building evacuation worked very well as usual, so that was a positive.
Thank you, David. Any further questions relating to the content or commentary relating to the content of the safety report? If not, we will go to a vote. All those in favour of adopting the safety report as is? Perfect. Thanks. Thanks. Okay, sorry. The motion is that the Guild Council notes the safety report. All of those in favour of adopting the motion? All those against? The motion is carried. Well done. Okay, item 6.2 is the budget policy and expenditure and assets policy. The motion is that upon the recommendation of the Finance and Risk Committee, the Guild Council approves A, the revised budget policy, and B, the revised expenditure and assets policy. That's moved by Jasmine Tweed and seconded by Mitch. Jasmine, as the mover, did you have anything to add? No. Mitch, as the seconder, did you have anything to add?
I'll just note that these originally came to, I think, the July Guild Council where I was travelling. And it was chosen to defer these, and I missed that last Guild Council when I was making the agenda that they were deferred, so here they are.
Thank you. Mitch, was there any questions or commentary on the budget policy and expenditure and assets policy? If not, we'll move to the vote. All those in favour of adopting the budget policy and expenditure assets policy? All those against? That motion is carried. We'll move to item 7. Item 7 is the minutes of committees reporting to the Guild Council. 7.1 is the representation board held on the 11th of September. 7.2 is the executive committee held on both the 28th of August and the 2nd of October. There was no meeting of the Finance and Risk Committee. However, there was 2 meetings of the Legal Committee on both the 2nd of September and the 6th of September. The motion is that the Guild Council notes the minutes of the boards and committees on block. That's moved by Mitch. Can I get a seconder? Alina. All those in favour? All those against? That motion is carried. Item 8 is general business. Was there any general business? Hang on, I've got a call. Let's go, Julie. Julie. Yep. You got to hang on. You got to press the green key. That one might not be working. This one hasn't worked. Thank you, Julie.
What can this Guild Council do to help? I want my boyfriend back on campus. He has never had any chance to plead not guilty in a fair trial, for example, in a university court of law. And by the way, he believes all the vice-chancellors should be elected, and he believes there should be speakers' corners which are designed so that people take their turn in the queue and then have their say. Plus, here's a resolution for the Guild Council meeting. If you want to adopt it, we call for the immediate annulment or cancellation or rescindment of all student and staff suspensions and expulsions, pending fair trials for such students and staff in the University Court of Law. Plus, please don't forget we have a whole law school at this university and a very well-paid admin supposedly in charge. P.S. You were invited to do a Google search on the treatment handed out to Bird Strider Burke by the Murdoch University admin. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Mitch. Let's go, Mitch. Yeah.
Thanks, Julie. Any student who has any issue with the university is welcome to contact Student Assist by emailing hello@guild.curtin.edu.au for help from our Student Assist officers with any specific misconduct cases.
Thank you, Mitch. Any further commentary or general business for today? We'll go Jasmine.
I just have a procedural motion to suspend Standing Order 12.4 to add my report to the agenda formally, and also the motion that I circulated earlier for accrediting observers for the NUS. There are a few NUS delegates have indicated that they won't be able to come to NatCon, and they have informed me who they would like to be their proxy. So as we do every year, this is just, we do a motion to accredit these observers, and as it's stated, that we only pay for the observers if they are taking the spot of the NUS delegate. We don't pay for like any extras.
Thank you, Jasmine. So the motion is to suspend Standing Orders 12.4, 12.4 being a request under bylaw 10.3. That is to be taken, to be approved, unless the chair, that is not 12, that is 10.4, sorry. It's to add to the agenda. Jasmine has moved up. We're seeking a seconder. Mitch, Craig, all those in favour? All those against?
Can I ask a question about it?
About procedural or about the motion?
Oh, sorry, this is a procedural. All good at the motion. I'll ask
Yep,
a
procedural passes. The motion is as circulated. I'll pull that up. Motion is that the Guild Council appoint the following as observers of the upcoming National Union of Students National Conference: Veronica Gobber, Callum Baxter and Nazafa. Was there any questions relating to the motion? Ella.
I was wondering which delegates are not attending.
Jasper.
So in terms of the delegates, if you see listed, there are a number of delegates who are members of the exec. So there is a chance that they won't be able to attend NatCon because of kind of the incoming workload that comes when you start as exec. So basically, these people are accredited observers to be able to be in the wings in case these people can't go. And for example, there's like a 99% chance I won't be able to go to NatCon either.
Oh, so
that's what, yeah.
Wait, so there's no one, so none of the delegates have actually said that they can't go, but there's a chance they might not be able to go.
So no, there are delegates who've said that they, like, there's like a 99% chance they can't go.
Who
I'm
are they?
one of them, and there's a couple other them who it's still not 100% confirmed, but because of the deadline with the accredited observers, we have to get it in. Like a Razan won't be able to go, and then there's like a potential chance that Bridget won't be able to go either. So this is why we've got this in. Yeah, it's kind of similar like last year, how you didn't go. So
Yeah, I
we
know.
had Danica in instead.
Can I just clarify though, like only the accredited observers will be paid for, like only, they won't be like double the
No,
amount
no,
of
no. For example, like say if I can go to NatCon, Veronica won't go and we won't be paying for
Right.
Veronica to go.
Okay.
It's only if I can't go.
Yeah, okay, got it.
Yeah, we only pay for the total of people that are actually it's like a 1-for-1 swap. And then through the accrediting observer process as well, if one of these accredited observers want to go, but they're more than happy to do that, but they just have to pay for it themselves. Same like any student if they wanted to go.
Thank you, Jasmine. Any further questions on the motion? If not, we'll move to a vote. All those in favour? All those against? That motion is carried. Was there any further general business? Ella.
I mentioned it before, but I did just want to note that I do think it was really important having the student general meeting at Curtin. I know it wasn't an official meeting, but like it was actually really great because it mobilized quite a lot of students for late in the semester. Over 150 students voted, Curtin students voted for Curtin to cut ties to Israel and protested, throughout campus with us in week 11. And it gave a lot of confidence to pro-Palestine students to say their opinions in a public space. And a lot of Muslim and Arab students who, probably wouldn't have done that in any other situation, felt confident to make arguments, in support of Palestine, against, pro-Israel supporters, pro-genocide supporters. And I think it was a really kind of significant moment that gave a boost to people, to help to people's feeling that there actually are people on campus who care about Palestine, that they can come together with other students and do something about Palestine, continue to, be activists for it, continue to try to put pressure on our university through our collective power. And I think it was a shame the Guild didn't support it and stuff like that. And I just think it's worth, the Guild Council should note that the Student General Meeting for Palestine that Students for Palestine WA organised was successful, and note the amount of students who came and who are very passionate about continuing to be part of pro-Palestine activism and come to pro-Palestine events on campus, and who are angry at Curtin's connections to the military, who are angry at Curtin's connections to weapons companies, and are angry at Curtin repressing pro-Palestine activism. So I don't know, I just think everyone here should reflect on that, and I think, we should think of opportunities for the Guild to do more things like that, that can be like, that are about mobilizing, more students for Palestine, not just tiny working groups, but actually trying to get students activated in the pro-Palestine movement, because when they are, people feel good about it. They feel like they're doing something, because a lot of students are very, very, very angry. Like we're seeing right now, like Israel is literally like enclosing in on the Jabalia refugee camp in the north of Gaza. They're like, literally ethnically cleansing hundreds of Palestinian men right now in the north. This genocide's gone on for a year, and people continuously feel kind of hopeless and outraged, but when they come to something like the Student General Meeting, they feel like they do have power. So yeah, I just think like the Guild should note it, the Guild Council should note that that was a success, and that, we should think about what other activism, protest kind of like things can we do next year.
Okay, thank you for those comments. Was there any further general business? Veronica.
Yeah, I'd just like to respond to that. I think it's important that the Guild Council also notes that Ella did approach the Guild about a special general meeting, and what they presented didn't meet requirements, and in fact encouraged our secretary to break laws to try and meet those requirements. It was also suggested that we could run a protest together, and that was not received by your party. Ella didn't want to do that. Of course, it's fantastic that students on campus want to rally around Palestine and do these types of activities, but I just wanted to present that side as well, so that Guild councillors were fully aware of the behind the scenes of what led up to those events.
Thanks, Veronica. Ella.
Okay, I just feel like it's so absurd that Veronica wants to like slam me and like, basically like say that like I was encouraging bad behavior from the Guild, when it's like I was literally trying to work with you guys to do something positive for the pro-Palestine movement. And instead of acknowledging that it was important to mobilize like, hundreds of students for Palestine, you want to talk negatively of it, which every single time we have done something successful for Palestine this year, you've wanted to talk negatively of it. Like the student strike we organised early in the year that actually had like 300 plus students who came to it, which was very successful actually for that time in the year for Perth. You wanted to slander that in your report back in March or whatever. And then you guys organised a very dismal protest yesterday. And everything we do that actually does mobilise students, does make students feel like they can get out, be angry, and have a sense that we have power as a collective, you want to slander, which I think is so unproductive, actually. And yeah, we do want to work together. And yeah, I think like the Guild should think about that. And like, we talked about the special general meeting, and you guys said, oh, maybe we can work something out. Maybe we can have a meeting, that would be like bureaucratically legal, and nobody got back to me. You refused to actually attempt to do that or participate in that process. So I think actually it's on you for not engaging in the process of being part of this special general meeting that was actually really, really great. So yeah, I just think that's a pretty appalling response from Veronica.
Just for clarity for the Guild Council, bureaucratically legal is still legal, irrespective of the tagline at the start. Dylan Storer.
Thanks, Ryan. I'm quite blown away by what we're hearing right now, that it's somehow incumbent upon the Guild to engage with some quasi-legal process by which Ella decides what counts and what doesn't, and what's legitimate and what's not. The Guild is governed by the Curtin University Act. We have requirements under that Act to engage with. So I'd love to hear from Ella. Like, do you think that this Guild Council should have quite potentially broken the law to facilitate a student general meeting, a special general meeting? Is that something that you're here seriously arguing about at the moment? And is it not incumbent upon the people that wished for that to happen to have engaged with the Guild's process on that fact under the statute and the law? That's not the case. Is that, like, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Ella.
Just to be clear, I never encouraged the Guild to break the law. I had a meeting with Mitch and Veronica, and we discussed how we could have a legitimate special general meeting for Palestine through the Guild. Mitch said that he would think about ways to add motions that haven't been moved from the Guild before to do that. And Veronica and Mitch did not do that, refused to engage in the process, because I truly think that, you know, the approach of the Guild is not to try to involve the massive amounts of students in pro-Palestine activism. That's what actually puts pressure on administrations. That's what puts pressure on the government. It's mass movements. And the Guild has done nothing to have an approach of building a mass movement, of trying to actually engage students, mobilize them into activism, make them feel confident about taking a pro-Palestine position, making them feel confident about their collective strength. Instead, it's all behind closed door meetings with the Vice Chancellor. That's what it is. It's not about actually trying to do everything you can to build up the type of movement we need to smash the military ties that Curtin University has. And so Mitch and Veronica refused to try to engage in a process in which the Guild could have called a legitimate student general meeting. And so Students for Palestine did it anyway, because we think that legitimate or not legitimate student general meeting, it was important to have a moment on campus in which hundreds of students came together to collectively discuss and vote on Curtin's connections to Israel, Curtin's connections to genocide, and demand that Curtin takes a pro-Palestine anti-genocide position, which it has not taken yet, in the midst of a year of genocide. So whether it was a legitimate meeting or not, it actually doesn't matter, because the main thing that was important was mobilizing students together with their collective strength to take a position, a political position on the genocide happening right now, which Mitch and Veronica refused to be part of, where they could have. They said to me, maybe we could move a different motion so that it would be legitimate. But they refused to do that. Every time I asked them about 5 times after the initial meeting we had, and they iced me out each time. So I refused to. I think it's just slander to say I was encouraging the Guild to break the law. It's a distraction from the actual issue here, which is the Guild did not want to even attempt to hold a mass student meeting for Palestine, which had happened all around the country, did not want to attempt to mobilize hundreds of students for Palestine. So that's what I'm going to say. I think what we did was great, whether it was a legitimate meeting or not.
Yep. Thank you, Ella. Veronica.
Yes, again, Ella, there was an offer to mobilise students together through a protest action, and you declined that because you wanted it under a guise of a special general meeting that couldn't be legitimate. And it was a very clear suggestion that you had to have a motion that was different, and you didn't follow through with that. It's as simple as that. Hey,
I did follow through with it. Me and Jack sent multiple emails and approached you multiple times to talk about it. So this is just totally an excuse. If you wanted to do a protest, you could have seriously reached out to us about it, which you never did.
I think this conversation might be better served outside of Guild Council. And so with that, I'll ask that we move on. Was there any further general business to discuss? If not, let's move on to the meeting evaluation. The meeting evaluation for today's meeting was done by Callum. Callum, please present your no doubt insightful meeting evaluation.
From what I observed, it was a calm and collected meeting that was efficient, having a record finishing time. 6:16.
It's not actually, but okay.
No,
you're 1 minute over, but okay.
Doesn't matter. Yeah, what's the criteria again? President Lowe?
Guild values, candidate values.
Your values, what are the good values? Lots of integrity, lots of diversity on display. But
Autonomy.
and autonomy. And suggest I reckon if we keep this really efficient running, we could have a very good guild council for the rest of the year.
Thank you, Callum. We'll move on to item 10, which is, of course, the next meeting. The next ordinary meeting of the Guild Council is Thursday, the 21st of November, 2024. That's our last Guild Council. At 5:30 p.m. to be held in Council chambers. Documents and motions are to be submitted no later than 5 p.m. on Thursday, the 14th of November, to Mitch, the Secretary. With that, I'll close the meeting at 6:17 and see you all in November. Motion of no confidence. I read the motion of no confidence. It was amazing. Yes, I meant this meeting. Okay, so the colours of the bid. No, yes, silence. I was immediately. Take on the schedule.